Hi, I'm disability lawyer David Brannon. I'm going to talk to you now about the effect of severance packages on long-term disability benefits. So after watching this video, you will know the types of effects that getting a severance package can have on your long-term disability claim or long-term disability benefits, and you'll have a better understanding of what to do in that situation. Now, if you want to learn more on this topic, check out our information down below. We have links to our guides and other books. So a common question people have is, what effect will a severance package have on my long-term disability? Now, there's a few things we want to keep in mind here. The first point is that the insurance and your right to the long-term disability is separate and apart in many ways from your employment relationship. So in theory, if you're already approved for long-term disability benefits and you're being paid and you're at the same time your employment relationship ends, in theory, that will not affect your right to the ongoing disability benefits. There are things that can happen that can cause some disruption on both sides. So one of the situations that probably the most dangerous one is when you are being asked to sign a severance agreement, there's usually release forms and other things that you need to sign. One of the problems we find is that these release forms, sometimes intentionally or unintentionally, can have wording that causes the long-term disability claim to end, okay? And some insurance companies have successfully relied on these releases to get out of paying long-term disability, even though that wasn't necessarily the intent of the people signing the release, or at least not the intent of the employee who signed the release. So whenever I get asked to look at these situations, I go through that release that's attached to the severance package with a fine-tooth comb to see if there's any language in here that is going to cause the long-term disability claim to end or to cause it to stop in any way. So that's the first thing. You have to be very careful about that. The second thing that can happen is, depending on how you structure or how the severance payments are structured, the long-term disability benefits insurer may have the right to just write them all off. So if you were to get paid out $100,000 on your severance pay, it's possible that the insurance company could just not pay you $100,000. So your long-term disability benefits might end until that amount of money is, until they would have had to pay you that amount of money, and then it would pick up again. Now, it's not always that simple, but that is kind of things that can happen. So now, not all insurance companies can offset severance packages, and it depends really how the package is set up and how the benefit that's being paid out to you is defined, the period it covers, that kind of thing. So there is some legitimate structuring you can do around a severance package in a way to minimize some of the effects on the long-term disability benefits, but you have to be careful about that. It has to be legitimate, but there are some things that can be done. Now, the other issue that comes up is if you haven't already applied for long-term disability benefits, very dangerous in that situation. If you haven't yet applied for long-term disability, let's say you're still on your short-term disability, very dangerous for you to do severance packages before you've actually got your application for long-term disability in. Some plans require you to be an employee at the time that you make the application. So if you do a severance package before you technically apply for long-term disability, you could be, again, giving up your rights to that long-term disability claim. You may not have intended to do that, but that will be the effect of it, and that can cause a problem. So the bottom line is you really need to get legal advice if you are contemplating taking a severance package while you either have a possible long-term disability claim, a claim that's in progress, or an approved claim. It doesn't really matter. In any of those scenarios, you should get a lawyer to review it, and a lawyer who knows about disability benefits and employment law as well, to make sure that you're not going to have any of these pitfalls, and to give you some feedback on how this thing could be structured a little differently to minimize some of the offsets that could happen. Or to let you know, like, if you were to sign this is what would happen. Maybe they can give you advice on what amendments to make and the like. Now, you could get that advice from our firm or any other lawyer, again, you want to have someone who knows about disability claims and employment law. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and don't forget to subscribe. You'll get our videos coming out once or twice a week. And again, down below, you can click on some links to download more information, to learn more, and to get access to some of our free books and other guides.